Hi, I'm Ian.
And I'm Jason.
And this is Ghosts and Bears, the only podcast where we bring you the actual ghost stories
With the actual history.
in the actual place. On this episode of Ghosts and Bears, we're heading off to Strawberry Vale for another special episode of A Ghost in My House, The Haunting in Strawberry Vale, where we join Brad and Deanna and their family and hear all about the ghost stories that have happened to them in their house on Ghosts and Bears. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this
Thank you very much.
exciting episode of Ghosts and Bears, Ghost in My House. We haven't done one of these for a while.
No, it was a ton of fun.
It was so much fun. We went to Brad and Deanna's house, and they could not have been nicer to us.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Not only did they give us snacks and liquor, well, after we recorded,
wonderful.
which was smart. We stayed so long that they bought us dinner.
Yeah, they didn't have to do that because I
No,
offered to buy.
They did not. They were very, very sweet.
Mhm.
Exceptionally kind people in an incredible house.
Yeah, it's a beautiful house.
How many windows does it have again?
I don't know.
Something in there's 90 windows or something.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot of glass.
Yes.
Beautiful house built on top of a hill overlooking the waterway. It's just exceptionally nice.
Yeah, it's stunning.
It really is. In doing some research, because, we're respecting their privacy. We're not giving out the address, blah, 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 blah. They were able to help me out with a local history book. And in the book, we learned some valuable things that will help you, I think, enjoy the story a little more. The house was built between 1910 and 1912 by a retired sea captain who was born in 1850. He was old. There was a backstory about a secret concubine who died in the house, and they even had a room in the house called the funeral room.
Yes, that's right. That's interesting.
So creepy. The house wasn't just the house. It was actually the house, and it sat on 10 acres of property.
Yeah, it's a good size piece of property.
And that's why we figured out that the house our friends live in is part of that estate.
Exactly.
So we do go into that a little bit more. But otherwise, yeah, it's the Heritage Home is beautiful as well. It's on a whole other street, the way it's set up.
Yes, it's stunning.
Yeah. So it's pretty neat. We don't have a whole lot of preamble for this one. Other than what's been going on in our lives. Jay, you had something exciting happen. Mr. Lucky.
Yeah, I won a television at Atlas Audio. So
He
that was
won
nice.
a TV.
Yeah, it's a Sony. It's beautiful.
Who wins TVs?
I don't know.
Well, you do.
Well, I guess so. It's beautiful. It's heavy too.
It was exceptionally heavy. I'm not sure why, unless it's full of tubes or something.
I don't think so.
They offloaded some old 1950s tube TV for you.
Yeah, there we go.
And then the other thing I don't know if we talked about it or not, about Rex having to go find a new place to live.
Yeah, poor Rex.
We were so sad. Rex went up with Jason's mom when she was living up north. And in the in-between time, we got Moby. And Randy came home early because he was being too much of a problem for Lorraine.
Well, that's why he's Randy.
That's why he's Randy Savage. And then what happened?
Oh, Mom moved back and brought Rex with her, and he had changed. He didn't like Moby in the house.
He didn't like Moby. He wasn't that crazy about Randy. He got really kind of antisocial, and he was just generally really unhappy.
Yeah.
So I put it out there that if someone was looking for a beautiful, beautiful cat, someone who lived maybe alone or with no other pets, who wanted an indoor cat, that maybe he would be the one.
It sounds like she loves him.
Yeah.
'Cause she doesn't say anything anymore.
Nope.
So I assume no news is good news.
She was saying how he was really fitting in and everything was good and all that. So yeah, I'm going to guess no news is good news as well.
I loved him.
I
He was
know.
so sweet.
I have to say though, Randy and Moby, so much happier.
Yeah, they are happier.
So that it did work out for the best. Ultimately, it wasn't about us. It was
No.
about what was best for him.
Yeah.
So we
absolutely.
loved him, and I guess we could have kept him in a room or
No,
a
that's
panther cage or something.
it's not fair to you.
No, not at all. Not at all. So that's what we were trying to do, was we were trying to do the best we could for him. And that's what we did. But then last weekend, we did add to our household. What did we do?
Oh, we went to Calgary, so that was a lot of fun.
And then on the way home, we stopped in Kelowna.
Oh, yes, and we picked up some guinea pigs.
Baby guinea pigs. They're 6 weeks old.
Mika and Pika.
Mika and Pika are their true fun names.
They're fun.
I'll probably post some pictures at some point, but right now I'm just letting them make themselves at home, and
They're very happy.
super happy. We've only had them a week, and we've hand trained them already. They will eat out of, well, the Pika will eat out of my hand. The boy, the girl is just like, everything's scary, and I'm sure you're gonna kill me. But otherwise, yeah, they're good. They're doing really well.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, and thanks to our friend Karen, who came over and helped me with the best ways to keep their cage.
That's right.
She was very helpful with that. So yeah, so that's what's going on. Other than that, we're working on the podcast. I'm not doing ghost walks right now, which is nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
Got a couple Audible books done.
Good job.
Yeah, so once those are out, I will be promoting the stuffing out of those. They're just in the check whatever thing.
And I also got voted in as a board of director for a large society, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you're on fire. You're like Mr. First Nations now.
Just add another thing to the list.
And then you're going to be in an event, which I would love to tell everyone in Victoria about, or anyone else who's going to be in Victoria on December 10th. Tell our friends about what that amazing event is.
Oh, it's called Tuba Christmas, so I'll be playing in that. That's going to be fun.
I am so excited. The last time we had Tuba Christmas with a big group, because it's like 100 tubas and
110
euphoniums.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Euphoniums, tubas, baritone horns.
Right.
Yes.
So the last time we did that was 2019.
Yeah, that's right.
So long ago.
Yeah, it was. My buddy Paul did a great job of setting it up and playing live performance with a small group in Farquhar Theatre.
And it was televised.
Yes, it was televised.
But
that was really cool.
It was very well done, and we definitely enjoyed it, but it was just not the same.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people missed that. So we're really anxious. It'll be fun to play. It's a lot of brass.
You have not lived until you're standing there freezing your own brass off, clutching hot chocolate, and having your very soul reverberate because of the bass notes of 100 trombones. It's amazing. So it's at Market Square.
Tubas and baritones. I don't know if there's any trombones.
What did I say? Trombones?
Yeah, you said trombones.
Oh, duh. Sorry. I knew it was a large brass instrument. It's going to be at Market Square, December 10th.
Yeah, Victoria.
I think it's at 2 p.m.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
That's all right. We'll post stuff about it. I'm excited
It'll
for
be fun,
it. It will be so much fun.
And people love it.
And if we have people in Victoria who are listening to the podcast and they want to come down and hang out with me, that would be great, because it'll just be me, because you'll be in the band.
Absolutely. And feel free to reach out to donate. We're going to be, it's not live yet, but we will be collecting donations.
When you say we, you mean Tuba Christmas,
Tuba
not
Christmas,
us. Yeah.
yes. Tuba Christmas is collecting donations to give to the Times Colonist.
Yeah, which is our local newspaper.
Correct. And they redistribute those funds and help people out.
Yeah, basically it's a big Christmas drive.
It's so much fun.
It's so
I'm
cool.
super excited.
I am too. I am
a
too.
very unique horn. I'm a trumpet player by trade. That's my normal instrument. So I'm going to be playing my... I have a beautiful King marching baritone horn, which is kind of like my bass trumpet.
No, it's going to be awesome.
It's very different compared to everything else in that.
Absolutely.
It looked like an oversized trumpet with a huge bell. Well, actually, it looks like an oversized... Well, it's an octave lower, but it looks like a baritone horn that plays like a flugelhorn.
There you go. Things that most people would have to Google to know what they look like.
Yeah, King marching baritone horn.
There we go.
Yeah, it's super fun.
That's
I'm super
awesome.
excited because it's very different than everything else.
It is probably the most Christmassy thing you can do.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, it's really, really good time. So we encourage everyone to do that. So yeah, that's what's going on. TV winnings, guinea pigs, tubas. That is what our life has been going. Oh, Audible books. There's some fun stuff going on.
Yeah.
So we're excited. And then my mom's coming out for the
That's
Christmas
right.
season for New Year's.
Yeah, that's right.
And we'll have Karen over for Christmas Day. It's going to be great.
It'll be lots of fun.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Also, we're going to be filming our Christmas episode.
Correct.
We're doing Dickensian, Victorian Christmas stories, just like we did last year. But this year, we're going to film it.
Yeah.
So I've been gathering up props and costumes.
It's fun.
I think it's going to be really great. I'm excited.
super excited.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. All right, friends. Well, we're going to just dive right into this amazing story that Brad and Deanna were so kind to share
Brad
with us.
and Deanna. Thank you very much.
They could not have been more gracious. And I'm really impressed with the way they dealt with this.
Yeah, it was
And the way
awesome.
they're dealing with it. It was really neat to have that and to kind of talk with them and toss around theories. And it was great. So we're going to let you hear that. When we come back, a little bit of a surprise for you in terms of a theme song that, well, we'll talk about it when we get back.
Yeah.
Also, our big shout out to our new patrons. And
thank
we
you.
will be we'll be back right after this.
Right after these messages,
We'll be right back. All right, it's Ian here, and
I'm Jason.
we're here with our friends who live in the very haunted house, probably one of the most haunted I've ever heard. We're here with
Brad
and
Deanna.
And they have very graciously agreed to allow us to come in and not only go through their house and look at everything in a kind of a creepy way, us being creepy, not you, but also share with us some of the stories they've had. So I think we should just sort of jump in now. How long have you guys lived here?
built in 1992. No, we moved in here
Okay,
in
so it was built in 92.
Yeah, that's correct.
And when did you move in?
2002.
Oh, okay, so 20 years.
Oh, so there's 10 years in here before. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
10 years.
Which had a variety of people, from the whole house being a Mormon headquarters.
Wow.
When we first started looking at the house, there were a couple very, very old people who were pretty much bedridden. So
right.
they
They were
here
living here?
before.
Wow.
They were living here before.
They're living presently. Their bedrooms were where our kids' bedrooms are in the house.
But that would not be easy. This is not a single level house.
No, it's not. So they didn't leave those rooms very often.
Oh,
And
wow.
they were towards the end of life, and
Yeah.
they happened to be in the rooms that we have a lot of experiences.
Excellent.
Interesting.
All right. So you've
Wow.
raised two kids here,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And would you say when you moved in, was it right away you knew something was going on, or did it take a while?
I think it was when our son began to express himself with words, because when we moved in, he was 1.
Right.
And then between 1 and 2, when he had more vocabulary, he was more able to explain what he was seeing and what was going on. So I think that's why.
And are you guys people who pick up on things like this? Like, would you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a person who can usually pick up
Yeah.
things. Even before we moved this house, I would pick up things at different people's homes,
Yeah.
locations, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So this
Nice.
wasn't anything. It didn't come out of the blue for you. It wasn't like, oh, I need to be convinced something's going on.
No, but I'm always skeptical, and
Yeah.
I always err on that side of things. But I also had a lot of experiences in Europe when I lived in Europe for 2 years. So we would go to these older places. and
Very
so
haunted place.
I knew that there was something there. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's say, what was your first time dealing with something where you went, okay, something's going on here?
This sounds a bit creepy, but it was with the addition of our youngest son. So our youngest son was born. I think that's when things started. Every time I think back, that's when it started. So we would hear him crying,
Right.
but then we would go and he wasn't actually crying.
Oh, so phantom crying baby.
Yes, and that wasn't just us. That would be Brad's mother, who lives downstairs. She would come upstairs, and she would even get up and go and check on Isaac, and he would be fast asleep. So that was our first kind of touch about it. But then once Caden was started to talk about it more, then we knew something was happening.
Right.
The very first time I was upstairs reading in bed, and they were in bed. Well, actually, at this time, it was just Caden, and he started crying and being very vocal and screaming out for me. So I ran downstairs. I remember running because this was not typical, and picked him up. And I noticed right away he had actually pooped his diaper, which he never did.
Right.
So he was terrified. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to change his diaper. And the whole time he was saying, "Mommy, Mommy." And his part of his room, he has a double room. So he's in the sleeping part, and then there's the toy room part. And right after he was doing that, I heard, and he heard a mimicking of "Mommy, Mommy." And it felt like it was making fun of us.
It felt bad.
Yeah, it did not feel good. And I was wide awake. I knew I wasn't asleep.
No, you'd been reading. It was like you woke up from this.
Yeah, and so just quickly, unfortunately, it wasn't the best parenting moment of my life. I put him back in the crib and kind of ran away to get Brad.
Like, good luck, kid. You're on your own.
But he went right back to sleep, and he was a solid sleeper.
And the brave dad had to go down there to discover if there's someone actually in our house. And of course, there was nobody there. So it was one of those scary moments that we found in this house.
So that sounds pretty dramatic. Like, that's not a...
It was a big kickstart.
Yeah, yeah. And then you'd mentioned when he was a baby, things would happen with him.
Yeah, so we became aware that he was seeing things that we weren't seeing, and we used to always, every night was 3 stories and 3 songs, and then go to bed.
Right.
And so we were in the rocking chair, and at this point we had actually closed the curtains. Because we knew things were happening.
This was the curtains between the rooms.
Between the rooms,
right.
so he couldn't see the toy room.
Smart.
And that was, for us, it was because we didn't know what was going on that side of the room. But the other thing was it stopped him from thinking about all the toys that were over there.
Sure.
But we were rocking in the rocking chair, and he looked up in the curtains and he said, "Yellow, Mommy, yellow." And we're like, okay. And he says, "Mommy, he's stuck." And I asked, well, who's stuck? "The man, Mommy, the man." I said, "Where is he stuck?" And he pointed to the curtains. He said, the man is stuck. He's yellow, which was interesting. And I just thought I'd throw this out there, and I wish I never had. But I said, "Oh, is it a good man or a bad man?" And he just kind of lowered his voice and said, "It's a bad man, Mommy. It's a bad man."
No.
So even now I'm getting chills singing that.
Yeah.
So the other was one time we didn't have the curtains closed, and he just stopped singing or reading with me, and he started to indicate with his finger this back and forth kind of pendulum motion. And I, "What are you doing? Like, let's read." And he said, "There's a boy, Mommy, boy." And at that time, every time he wanted to go to the park, he'd say, "Ming, Mommy, Ming," or "Ming, Daddy." And that was for swings. And I said, "Oh, there's a boy." And I'm like, "But what are you doing?" And he said, "Boy, Mommy, Ming, Ming." And it must have been a good 2 minutes, I'm not kidding, which was eternity, of him pointing at the boy, or even just tracking this boy on a swing, which I couldn't see, back and forth. And so the curtains got closed again.
I'd be like sealing up the room personally.
Yeah, well, you start thinking, well, maybe what's going on here? Is it my child, or is it the house? So
Sure.
you start to,
So you weren't experiencing things on your own at this point? It was
with the baby
just with
crying
him.
one, the baby crying.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was about it. Everything else was kind of centered around him.
Around him, and then that began to change as well.
Okay. So things are centered around him. Weird things are happening. And then what was the next change, do you think? What?
I think it's when you saw someone in our room.
Yeah, it was probably about 4 years after that. I was awake as well. I wasn't asleep. I didn't wake up from a sleep or anything like that. But I believe I was either reading or something. And I looked over the room, and there was a woman dressed in almost like a 1800s type of dress.
Yep.
And she had to be floating because she obviously wasn't standing on anything. I don't think she was sitting down on anything. She was higher than a human would have been.
Right.
And she had a stern look on her face and just looked at me, and she must have looked at me for about 5 seconds, and then she just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that was upstairs. We have a multi-level house.
Yeah.
And that was that was the floor that's the highest in our house.
That would be upsetting.
And that was the first time we had somebody had an experience there, because up before that point, Caden was having regular sightings or experiences,
but always in his room.
Always in his room.
Interesting. So this was the first one out of the room.
Yes.
You must have been so thrilled.
We were. We were. And I remember one thing that I just remembered, because I have written all of these down.
Right.
Is you actually saw that woman in the mirror beside our bed before you actually.
I hate those mirror things.
Before then that's when she looked at you and went around, and she went around the foot of the bed and then disappeared.
Yeah.
I still remember that.
Wow. And what did you think when you saw her?
You know, I've never been scared of ghosts.
Yeah.
Well, here I am just being brave because I don't see one right now. But I always am intrigued with it. You know me. I've always wanted to talk about it. I think it's nothing that should be disturbing. I think it's something that's quite neat, and there's a lot with the spirits we just don't know about.
Right.
What I was more interested in is that, you know, my son, and we can get to this, he saw a man probably dressed in 1800s type of outfit with almost like a long coat that they would wear back then with a top hat.
Right.
And he saw someone, a male, dressed that way.
Right.
Well, I saw someone in the 1800s that possibly could have been connected to that, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that is interesting. Okay, so we've got the lady showing up in your room, which would be upsetting, and on its own. But now this is kind of a sign that things are starting to get a little more broader, shall we say? Yeah. So what happened after that?
We had various things. So Caden would continue to see things.
Right.
Absolutely. He would continue to cry out in the middle of the night, and I still have a physiological response when I hear somebody crying for their mother, because I was on alert every night.
All the time, yeah.
Now, sometimes, of course, it was just he wanted out of bed, so I would never know. But we actually moved him to the other side of the room. So we started to try different things to see if we could stop this from happening. So we moved him to the other side of the room and put him on a bunk bed that was really high. So he was up high, he felt empowered.
Right.
And he would still see them, and at that point he started seeing more than one person. So he saw a group of 3 men with top hats and the long trenches walking right through his room and walking right through the door, like leaving the room.
So they're coming on field trips now. That's great.
Yes.
That's interesting.
And one time that was really memorable for me, and I just took him to bed with me after this, was there was one actually in his bed with him, and he felt like he couldn't move, he couldn't do anything to stop that. And that was when he was around 5 or 6, so he had a lot more language to explain what he was feeling. At that point, we moved him across the hall into the other room. And I just think they really liked him, because they came with him, and at that point, he actually saw these floating lights and floating, after talking to him, and I think he was about 6 then. He was able to explain that it was a sphere and it was golden, like an orb, and that they I can't remember, so don't quote me, even though we're on the podcast. It was either they became the orb or the orb was there first and then it transformed into people.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, you can change rooms, but we're still here with you.
Well, and part of it is, I think, and I've heard this described, if you have someone who is sensitive and can see this sort of energy, it's a bit like having a street lamp on a foggy street. Mm-hmm. You're going to naturally gravitate towards that street lamp.
That's right.
And it's the same way with the energy. Mm-hmm. They know that he can not only see them, but he can see them quite clearly.
Mm-hmm. And he can sense them.
And so they're going to go to him. So that actually makes some sense, yeah.
So he's still in that room, correct?
No, we moved them both. Oh, yes. So we moved them into the same room. So by now, Isaac is ready to go into a big boy bed. And so we put Isaac on the bottom bunk bed.
Ah, yes.
And Caden refused to have them in separate rooms until like forever. Like I think he was like 12 because he felt like he couldn't go to sleep and he didn't feel safe unless Isaac was in the room as well.
Right.
So Isaac became a security blanket for him.
No, that makes sense.
And it did make a big difference for him. He said he still woke up, he still saw things, but he knew that he wasn't alone.
He wasn't alone. And that's huge. Absolutely.
Now, visually, to put this into perspective for our listeners, I did a walkthrough through the house. The master bedroom and then the child's room and then the hallway downstairs, they're all in the same area of the house.
Right. Yeah,
that's what I did notice. Yes.
Yeah, that's
same
true.
Same side of the house.
That's true. Yeah.
We have to go down a set of stairs to get them and around a corner. We call it like the West Wing kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they are separated from us, but we're still. You're right. We're all.
That's
on
interesting.
That
kind of
and it's a big house, so that's a.
Yeah, so it's a significant.
It is relatively localized.
Space. Yeah, that's interesting.
I did feel it downstairs in the hallway, and I felt it in the laundry room, and I felt it in the room with the books and the sitting room.
See, I felt it downstairs.
And I also felt it in the bedroom because I thought I saw it through that mirror by the bed for a split second when you were doing this with your hand gestures. I thought I caught it out of that mirror.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then the dog jumped on the bed.
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry. The mic.
No, that's neat.
But
yes.
Interesting.
So, okay, so this is going on. We've seen the 1800s lady. Yeah.
Okay, girl.
So,
please tell me what else was going on after this.
So we had a group of people over for New Year's. I would say probably about 10 years ago.
Right.
And going back to what we're talking about, what my son saw with the gentlemen and gentlemen's that looked like they were dressed in 1800s,
the long coats
and
and
the tall hats. My mother and my stepfather lived downstairs, and they were in Mexico at the time when we were having this party.
Right.
So our friend Lori, who I don't know if she's a believer or not.
She is now.
She is now. She looks through our doorway to our entertainment room, and it goes. It's a clear visual route all the way to the kitchen.
Right.
And saw an elderly gentleman dressed in a long coat with a top hat walk through our kitchen and out the back. And she said to me, "Oh, is Blair here?" I said, "No, they're away." And she goes, "I thought I just saw him kind of dressed strangely." So anyways, I got up right away and looked through our kitchen. The kitchen door was locked.
Wow.
Nobody there.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the first time someone from outside.
But she knew what she'd seen.
Yes.
She knew.
Yeah. She still talks about this day.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
Now,
I have an idea.
is that tied without giving specifics? Yeah.
No, I'm wondering if this house owned
the
all
heritage
these
home
lots.
that owned all the property. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if this was kind of part of the grounds for that house.
No, absolutely this was. Absolutely.
So there were parties held at this place.
Oh, true.
And New Year's Eve.
Because I was picturing this could be a stop between here and 6 Mile before he continued on to 17 Mile.
Yeah, well, this would have been a country estate for the gentleman who lived there. And the one thing we have been talking about is where this house is situated now on the property was probably where the servants' houses were. In Victoria in the early 1900s, late 1800s.
I'm trying to hypothesize and paint
a lot
picture,
of
but
Chinese servants. Almost everybody had Chinese servants.
Well, when you're describing these people, it sounds like they're at a party.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, on that one. For sure.
Coming and going.
They do.
So they joined.
According to our neighbors, was where the servants' homes were.
We'll cut that out, but yeah.
You just
Where
said
we
the
are.
address.
Where we are.
Where we are.
Okay, so good.
All good. All good.
The street that we live on, supposedly according to our neighbors, was where the servants' homes were.
Perfect.
And to this day, they actually have poppies, wild poppies that grow every year, and it's the poppies that, of course, that they make opium from, and they honestly believe that it was intentionally grown for the servants that were here.
Of course, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. And a house of that size would have had a staff. Like they would have had groundskeepers, they would have had interior staff, outside staff, everybody.
Yes.
And culturally in Victoria at that time, everybody was Chinese who were working as staff, so that makes sense.
Well, we're only 2 doors down from a heritage house that we're talking about, and obviously this was part of their yard.
Yeah, they probably own the entire hilltop. Is probably what would have been sold to them. It overlooks a waterway, like it's really a great piece of property.
Beautiful inland.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And the house itself is the highest point in the neighborhood, and so there's a lot of speculation that it was a meeting place for Indigenous people as well.
Right. So you've got layers of energy going on.
Well, that does make sense, because that's why we have our situation on our house with the archaeological dig.
Which we've talked about. We did that as our Halloween episode 2 years ago. Yeah.
Interesting.
About our house. Yeah. Wow. So we've got our first member of the family first person outside of the family seeing this. But your mom, who lives downstairs, she's also had some experiences.
She's had a lot.
Yeah, my mother and her husband.
And now they are on the true ground floor.
They're on the true ground floor. They would actually, where their bedroom is situated, it would be partly underground.
Okay.
So some interesting things have happened there, and a couple of them I've been involved with as well.
Right.
My mother has seen multiple people downstairs, described as a boy who's dirty looking, wearing torn clothes,
emaciated.
Yes. A scraggly dog. That their small dog woke Blair and Diana up one night and barking, and they both looked up and they saw almost like a wolf-like creature at the foot of their bed. And it wasn't like a wolf man or anything like that, but it was just a large looking dog.
Rough-looking dog.
Very rough.
Looking dog. I just redid our back balcony last summer, and we were disturbing the land back there, and that evening my mother saw 3 figures in her ensuite washroom that she described as same kind of looking, kind of dirty.
Right.
Appeared to be 3 males. One of them pointed at her, and then they said something to the other figures, and it disappeared.
Yeah.
Wow.
What I found really eerie about that experience, and that was just, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, was there was a boy with them. And I always think of the boy that Caden always saw. And I think about the stories about the boy at the Heritage House near us.
Right.
But he looked directly at Diane and held her gaze. And then he seemed to actually, she figures that he was the one that said, okay, let's go, kind of thing.
Right.
And so he turned to go, and they all kind of followed.
I wonder if his connection with your son may have made him a little more, I don't know, I don't want to say bossy, but maybe a little more in charge of what's been going on in terms of keeping everything else under control.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
sometimes that is the way it goes.
So I was going to tell you about the experience I had downstairs.
Yeah.
And this only happened about 2 months ago.
Okay.
I was in our garage, and my mother sometimes props open the door from the garage to her place downstairs open, and I have a direct view down the hallway.
Right.
And I saw somebody come down our stairs that lead to our portion of the house quickly into the laundry room. And the laundry room is a room that has no windows, no doors.
Right.
So whoever went in there would have been in there. So I had to ask my mother something. So I went over there and said, "Hey, Mom, how are you doing?" And I went into the laundry room. Nobody there.
Wow.
But you'd seen someone go in there.
I saw somebody, and I can't describe who it was, but it was definitely a figure, and it wasn't at the side of my peripheral.
No,
I
it was
saw it full on directly.
Kind of the same height as your mom, kind of smaller.
And that's why I thought it was her.
Of course,
Wow.
of course. Wow. Your mom also said something about the closet. She would find things.
The closet. The closet is a whole. They actually added that closet in after we moved in. But she had a lot of problems almost on a daily occurrence where she would put her stuff on the shelf. She'd come back into the closet and they'd be on the floor.
Wow.
So then she'd put it back on and then she'd come back and it would be on the floor. And it reminded us of the Heritage House that had the same problem with hats. That they were always throwing the hats or rearranging the hats.
Right.
So somebody was being, I think, a bit playful.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Also, she, with the closet closed, she's often heard noises coming from there, and
she mentioned she thought her husband was in there, like literally someone moving things around in there.
Yes, and then open it up and
nobody's
nothing
in
there. So similar to the laundry room for Brad.
Yeah, yeah.
Another really, I think, a really cool thing is we are part of a close friend group, and we told them about every experience as it was happening.
Right.
So they've done this journey with us, and so my friend said, "Let's go see a tea reader up island."
Right.
And so we went up there.
Calico Cat.
It is the Calico Cat.
I've been there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so we waited. Apparently, I can't remember her name, but she was like supposed to be the best. So we went in a group with 5 girls, and I went last, and the 4 other people couldn't wait to get to my turn.
Right.
And that's because they knew I was going to ask about what's going on in our house. I was really careful. I didn't want to give this person any kind of clues or anything. And so all I said to her is, "Tell me about my house." And she was able to tell us that it was a large house. It was up high, higher than all the other houses. It was full of windows, and that's one thing the audience should know is there are windows everywhere in this house. And but she then said, "You have someone else living with you in your house, and it's a little boy, and he is often playing a drum." So we were like, wow. And she said, yeah, where you live, and she has no clue where I live.
No, of course.
Where you live, since it's higher, it was a meeting place for Indigenous people either before first contact or shortly after. And so she tied it all into that there was something going on. And she said a lot more.
Heather.
Is that her name, Heather?
Yeah. It just came to me,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah, she's no longer there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So that was really interesting because I thought, and then right when it was my turn, she looked at me and she said, "You actually don't need me. You have the same gifts I do."
Oh,
and I thought, okay, well, that
wow.
ties in because I think my husband does. I think my mother-in-law does. I think my brother does.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it, is that we are either open to it or we just have those sensibilities.
Yeah. And I think that's important to remember. Like, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I've never had any experiences, but I love it. I wish something would happen to me." And I'm always saying the same thing. It's like, I need glasses. Some people don't. I have exceptional sense of smell, which is a blessing and a curse. But in the same way, some people are able to pick up things that other people can't, and it's just a sensitivity. So I'd love to tell you, it's because ghosts don't like you, but it's really just because you may just not be physically able to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to try and communicate with someone, you're going to look for someone who's going to be able to hear you, right?
And notice when they do.
And notice when they do, and be okay with it. Sometimes not. Sometimes they don't care. They just want to, make contact. But I think that's where all the fear comes from with ghosts. It's not that the ghosts are out to hurt us or scare us or do anything. We just don't understand what's going on. That's really where the fear comes from.
And that's what we had to communicate to our son.
Yes.
So we wanted to empower him so that he had the ability to tell them to go away or leave him alone. And we went so far that I contacted an association in British Columbia that is for parents of children who see ghosts.
That's amazing. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
of course, I'm on the internet going, what am I going to do about this?
Yeah.
So that was great. We had a lot of back and forth through email about that. And they recommended going to see a counselor, and a counselor who was open to the realities of seeing these beings. And so we went to one, and he went once a week for quite a few weeks, talking about the language of what he can use. And one of the things this person had said was grab a real silver bell and go in each corner of the house, which we have so many of.
I don't know
because
which corner
we do not have straight walls in this house. It's all perpendicular. And so we used instead silverware, like pure silverware. And he went around to every corner in the house, and he made sure he did every corner of the house, and just rang them together, two knives, I think it was. And that just I could see a shift. I could see a shift that, these people, these beings are coming, and these figures are coming to see me, but I'm okay with that because I feel a little bit more empowered.
Yeah. And so two things came up for me. First off, good job as a parent, because I was raised with, no, you're making it up.
Absolutely.
That's not real. Then my parents got super religious, so all of a sudden it was me being evil. And that was a struggle.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I was 16 years old, I met a friend of mine. His dad was the non-official exorcist for the diocese where I grew up. And I told him some of the things I'd experienced, and he was the first adult in my life to go, yes, you're right. It's okay. And that was huge. So bless your hearts for being the kind of parents who are like, what do we need to do to help our child, and meet him where he's at?
And I think the very first thing is to listen to them and believe them.
100%.
Yes.
So he felt free. He felt that he could tell us every little thing that happened, and he did.
Good.
And I just having that support. But I'm a very scientific person, so I'm always checking the boxes. Okay, did this really happen? So it was good to see him know that, and all our friend group as well knew it and knew that he would be talking about it.
Yes.
And
we're okay with it.
Yes. And at that time he couldn't say ghosts.
No.
And we actually never labeled them ghosts.
No.
But he did overhear us talking about it because our friend group would always want an update.
Yeah.
And around the wine at the table. And he actually thought we were saying goats. For a long time, he would say the goats came.
Tom Brady.
The goats came. I love it.
Yeah, so that
awesome.
was cute.
That's
but
very cute.
There was a shift though from when he realized, okay, this is something, he was able cognitively to go, okay, there's something going on here for sure.
Because Jason and I both grew up with this kind of weird stuff, so it's a lot more helpful and healthy, I think, when you've got your parents going, we got you. We've got your back, and we're going to do everything we can to figure this out together. I think that's huge.
And there's a fine balance. You have to minimize it a bit too, because you don't want it to get out of their realm of control.
Right.
And so we would take in what he said, but then just move on. So that it was.
You can be accepting and believe him without having an overreaction to it.
Exactly.
And that's really key too. I think,
Yes.
Rather than what?
Yes.
We should all just sleep in the car tonight. Don't you kids agree?
But it was the adults who were more afraid.
Of
So the
course,
people we shared it with, and they would constantly say, "Oh my God, I would move. Why are you still there? You should move."
No, that's not.
But
problem.
I think it would be no matter where he went.
I agree with you. I mean, the fact that you're smack dab in the middle of probably what is a bit of a hotspot for
I
this
think
kind of
it's a
thing.
hotspot,
Certainly
yes.
wouldn't help, but I think one way or another it was going to find him.
Yeah.
So at least you were in a place where you could kind of deal with it and take it head on. The other thing I thought was interesting, feng shui wise, and I only learned this because of the Hotel Grand Pacific in downtown, was built by investors from Hong Kong who had very strong opinions on hotels with ghosts. And the Hotel Grand Pacific is the only hotel we have downtown that we have no ghost stories about.
Oh, interesting.
Because they brought in a feng shui person to very deliberately design the hotel to be ghost proof, essentially. And I didn't know what that meant. And, one of the guides I worked with said, well, go in there, go in and see. Tell me if you can see all the way through the hotel at any point. And I was like, oh, and you can't. You go in and then you have to go this way and then
like
around
our
this
house,
way. And
though.
that's exactly what I was thinking. But I wonder, because the house, it's not like the energy was coming into the house. I think the energy was just part of the land.
Yeah, I think it's...
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think it would have made much of a
very
difference.
grounded.
But I wonder if the house was built with something of that in mind. Like, it'd be interesting to know what the idea
really
was
would
behind
be.
that.
And like my wife said, tons of windows.
Oh, yeah.
Close to 100 windows in this house. And,
Wow.
and
Our
it's-
kitchen roof is a greenhouse.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
Windows on the top. Yeah.
Wow.
So that, and you know more about that than I do, but I think that would have a huge part of the transfer of energy in and out of the house as well.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. I mean, you guys kind of hit the perfect storm here.
It is. And now, now that we're out of it, it's very interesting. And I started writing almost like diaries of it. And the title is still called My Son Sees Ghosts. And I still remember the day he found it on my computer. He's like, what is this? And I downplayed it because I didn't want him to know. But it was getting so numerous that we had everywhere we went, they'd be like, tell people about your house. Tell what's happening in your house. And I'd start to forget them all because it was so many.
Well, it almost becomes normal.
Oh, it is.
That's the
very
weird thing.
normalized.
I mean, it wasn't until I lived in my own haunted house briefly, where what was happening so often that it just becomes part of the normal way of being in the house.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a house like Jason did with it. Like you had it for years and years and years.
Decades. It's still there.
Yeah. With me, it wasn't like that at all. It was... I was in a house for about 6 months and then got the heck out. I was gone. I was renting and I'm done.
I think if we didn't love the house so much, we probably would have.
This house we do love. And, and
it's amazing.
At the time when we had these ghost encounters, there was no way we were going to move.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's such a unique place. It's got a great feel.
It is.
Spiritually,
It is.
just so you know. It doesn't feel... You don't come in here and you're like, it's got a great feel. What Jason was saying, I definitely could feel that sort of energy downstairs, but I don't think it's a bad energy. It's just there.
It is weird that it's partially underground in that part.
That is interesting.
She's seen a lot.
Yeah, and then going back, I found very interesting with the encounters with my mother recently is when I started disturbing that land out back.
Right.
Right away, she started seeing things, and who knows?
Yeah. No, I know. And then what do you do about that? You just, okay, well, we're never planning anything again. Like, I mean, you got to kind of live your life. But, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a balance between the past and the present and the future. And you just sort of live in that space. But, yeah.
And we had wondered whether or not our second child would have, because he was born after Caden had started seeing things, I just assumed that Isaac would join him in seeing them, but he absolutely didn't see a thing.
That is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I love that. And that, it kind of backs up that theory about, maybe he's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Some people have it and some people don't, and it's nothing they've done or haven't done. It's just kind of the way it is,
Yeah.
No, like my mom said, that certain ones of us have gifts.
Yeah, well, in
like
your
her
First
sisters
Nations tribe,
do not have it, but
your
my
house
uncle,
is known for it, right?
herself, and myself have it. So that's probably why not every family member has it.
And I love that she says it's a gift.
It is.
That's a great lens to see it
She
through.
said it's a gift. I didn't like it, not very
No, it doesn't feel like a gift at the time.
That house is awful.
Now, she also said it's your particular house, right? Within the clan? For the Gitsan?
Yes.
Yeah, it's within the Eagle House that they're known for picking up.
And we also knew it wasn't malevolent, like no matter what was happening, and we would have moved had it been, but it was spaced enough apart. Even though it was frequent, it was still spaced out enough that we weren't overwhelmed by all of this.
Right.
And it was never felt dangerous, even though Caden had said it's a bad man.
Right. That's not.
It was almost like we were comforted. We knew that they weren't able to break that.
Right.
Until that time that he said he couldn't move and he was in the bed and the ghost was in the bed. Then that kind of ramped it up a level.
That would freak me out.
And that's when we started talking about tell them to go away.
Yes.
and empower him
And take
to
that
use
power.
his voice.
I do find it interesting, though, that in the basement suite, that's where the scraggly characters are.
Yes.
Oh,
emaciated. The boy is emaciated.
Not
You guys
in the
got the
upstairs.
well-dressed characters.
We got the wealthy party people from
Yeah.
next
And
door.
your mom in the basement gets the scraggly, starving dog people.
Yeah. Starving dog, starving boy.
That is interesting. I hadn't put that together. That's a really good insight.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Very good point.
yeah.
It's an interesting
Now, you guys
thought.
have always had dogs,
Always.
right? Okay. Have you had, I know your mom had, her dog reacted to something. What about your guys' dogs, your pets? Were they really keyed into it or not really?
Nothing that I remember. I think we would remember if one of our dogs.
Too. Yeah, our most recent dog just passed away. She barked at everything, so I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference. She
Hard to
would
tell.
bark at a tree if
She was
Yeah.
in Pyrenees.
That's funny.
Yeah, she barked at everything. Even after losing her eyes, she would still bark at everything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all.
Interesting.
But
Because some people are like, oh, the pets knew first or whatever.
Right.
And then other
Right.
times, pets
you
are
know what?
oblivious.
They could have, and we just didn't notice it.
we
That's
weren't
when it
paying
came down to
attention
it.
to it.
Also, maybe they weren't picking them up as a threat.
Right.
So they just they were just part of the household as far as the dogs were concerned.
It was just downstairs with
Yeah.
with your mother and
But
that
that makes
dog
sense.
being there.
Another dog coming in.
Another
That
dog.
might set it off.
And that was very interesting because my stepfather saw it at the same time my mother did.
And he
And
had
it-
up to that point was
Yeah.
saying, "This is ludicrous.
Yeah,
you guys don't know
I don't
what."
think he was a believer. That's
He's
what I
not a
said.
believer. Yeah.
Interesting.
But that explains why that hallway I didn't feel so comfortable wandering about downstairs.
And then all of a sudden, is he a believer now, or he will accept that
He'll
incident
accept
happened?
that things are out of his understanding
Yes.
for sure, and yeah.
And that's wise.
Yes.
But his mom, Brad's mom, felt a little validated once her husband said, "Oh yeah, no, the dog is reacting. This isn't just me."
And this is so funny you bring that up because that's the other thing. After hearing years of ghost stories, what would drive me crazy is when it was usually the wife would experience something and she'd tell her husband, and her husband would either not believe her, ridicule her, whatever. And I'm like, you married this person. Like, come on.
You
Like,
should
you
trust
can't
this
believe
person.
what they're saying. But I kind of get it because it's a fear-based thing, right?
No,
You
it's
don't
just-
want to believe it. You don't want to
They
believe
don't
it.
want to believe it. Yeah.
No.
And I also think when you give into that, then you feel like you might open up to so many more things. So
That's a
like
fair
you
point,
said, it's the fear.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that an argument that ensues that way is simply because that individual has also witnessed it, but
Right.
now is validated through another measure.
Right. Right.
Another non-corporeal form has been experienced, and both the couples now acknowledge it, but that's why the one chooses to say no.
Right.
Because there it's similar to homophobia.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Does not exist.
Yeah. It's a
It
choice.
doesn't- It doesn't.
It's a choice.
You know, but I think that's
wearing
kind of the
leather.
same mental block there.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's a
That
good
mental
point.
block that it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, not happening. It's
Absolutely.
not happening.
Like even when we were in that investigation, and I was like this to you when
Yeah.
they said he is beside you,
Yeah.
meaning my deceased brother.
Yeah.
But they held the
HP
meter up,
sauce.
and it went,
went
right off, and I'm like,
crazy.
yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
Like he's literally, I thought I felt him touching me, but that was the same level of disbelief. I'm like, no. I get he's communicating.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to have him physically right
It's
next to me
almost too
is
much.
yeah, sensory overload.
Yeah.
It is. It's an overload.
No,
It's
no,
a,
no, no.
Yeah.
It's a coping mechanism,
It's
right?
true. Fight, flight, or freeze. I kind of was freezing. He probably was laughing, I'm sure.
All right.
This is all hilarious.
Well, thank you guys. Any last thoughts about, any last stories pop into your head or?
I just firmly believe that they're still here.
Yeah.
And
100%.
we've lost our, like Caden was like this channel that was able to communicate with them a lot more.
Right.
I think Diane, Brad's mom, is another one. Because they can't, I don't believe that they would have just left.
No.
I just think they've lost their conduit to communicating with us.
But saying that, I think they haven't. I agree with you. They haven't left, but we still see them once in a while. We just don't see them in the frequency that we did.
Right.
But like a couple of months ago, I had an experience, and my mother had experience a few months ago. So they're still here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do see things, and you see some things happen, and you just, I think in my head, without even saying the words in my head, I'm like, it's just them.
Yeah.
Right? That's just what it is. Like.
Yeah, and it becomes a normal part of life.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, it's working for us.
Yeah,
I should bring that meter.
You know what? I
am so frustrated that Ian did not bring the meter. And
we only live like 3 minutes away. I can go pick it up.
You have to come back with it.
It'll be an excuse to come back.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But I said the reason I didn't was because if we start...
Come investigation show.
I was like, if we start and we start getting something coming through, and then we're like, okay, well, bye, and then we leave them with this stirred up kind of energy. I don't want to do that either.
Oh no, we'd be all over that.
I'm sure we'll figure it out.
And whether or not that's another
to feel if it's in that room with the chair.
Yeah.
And
that is a good point.
I definitely felt it in the closet.
Yeah.
And the hallway was where I felt it the strongest by the.
That is interesting.
But when
I
saw the mirror there, I thought I felt it.
Yeah.
In the mirror in the washer and dryer room, the laundry room.
The laundry room.
And that's where that figure disappeared.
Yeah. They do say, and I don't know.
That makes sense because that's facing where all you built.
Absolutely.
You just built last year.
Yes.
Right.
And so is their bedroom. So
it's all on that side of the house.
And I have heard mirrors can be portals kind of thing. I don't know about that. I don't really know anything about it.
That's why I thought I caught a glimpse of something in the mirror in the bedroom and then the mirror in the laundry room.
That's why we don't have a mirror in our bedroom.
I paused for a second.
One of many reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah, I definitely,
All right, well, thank you so much, guys. We so appreciate this. And I have special Ghosts and Bears pins for you, which you only get if you talk on the show. So
they are fun.
Those for you.
They
glow in the dark
pride.
too. They glow in the dark. They're pretty cool. Thanks so much, and I hope if you have anything else, you'll be sure to give us updates.
Come back anytime.
And we will be happy to share with you
love
what's going on. And next time we stop by, we'll bring out an EMF meter and maybe give people a little
provoke
update on
it.
that. No, not provoke it. Don't say that.
Hey, here's my stick.
Yeah, I'll throw it and run.
My poking stick.
Ian and Jason, we want to thank you for coming as well because it's been a while since we talked about this. It's an important part of our lives.
Yeah.
Well, Brad sees Ian all the time, and so for Jason to come is fantastic.
Well, the nice thing is for our listeners, they know like what we do is it's like a community where it's safe to talk about experiences with the paranormal, and no one's going to be like, nah, I think you're, that's just not what we do. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that with us.
I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go online. I'm going to look at how our First Nations artwork may have provoked things in the house. So now I've got some more research
It's interesting.
to do.
That's what I was drawn to was the one in the corner there.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
interesting.
Yeah.
That's our oldest one.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That makes sense.
It is our oldest one. I thought maybe it would be the one that I had made by a residential school survivor.
Right.
And I got to design it for Brad, and I thought, maybe that would be part of it as well.
Who knows the energy that goes into art and then what that art is used for traditionally? It's pretty powerful stuff. So
it's true.
I will definitely look up.
It's like having a whole room of lasers in there or something. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to all our listeners. And we will be right back after this with our wrap up. Take care. And we're back.
Welcome back.
I hope you enjoyed the story.
Yeah.
Not really a story, more of an experience.
It really is. Multiple experiences.
And this house is so interesting because it's so multi-leveled, and there really isn't a straight shot in the whole house.
No.
It's all angles, all windows, super high ceilings.
Yeah.
Little half. It's almost like the Winchester house with all the, except the stairways go places and it's not crazy.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty neat. What did you think? You enjoyed it?
I really did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It is a unique experience being in the house, and I'm glad that they were able to share that with us.
I'm really grateful they did. I think it's definitely a story worth telling, and I think it actually, in a way, is a pretty great story of hope and pulling together as a family and working through what was going on, you know, in a really positive way. Yeah. A couple more things. So because this episode has already gone on as long as it has, we wanted to make sure we recognized our lovely patrons, of which we have garnered a couple new ones. To Amos and Maria, we want to say welcome to the family.
Thank you very much.
We're going to be starting up those live streams with questions.
Yes.
That's
fun.
probably going to be this upcoming Sunday. Yeah, this is coming out on Wednesday, so I'm thinking Sunday.
Okay, Sunday evening.
Sunday evening, we're going to do our first one. Yeah. We've never done one using Patreon, so it will be an adventure we explore together.
Yes.
But that'll be great to have that with our patrons. And the other thing we do for our patrons, what do we do, Jason? What's the other thing we do?
Well, we do our ghost stories we've heard, which is a lot of fun.
And because of you having this great idea, we're doing ghost stories we have heard on the move.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And basically, Jason and I pile into the car with Moby sometimes, most of the time. And we head out on the road on one of our many road trips. And I read ghost stories. And then Jason and I talk about them.
That's right.
We're like, was this a good one? Was this crap? Was this...
These ones were good.
Yeah, they were good. And in fact, that second one we did was wow. So we do ghost stories we have heard. And Jason has super inspired me lately to get back into doing music. As you have heard, probably, I did an album back when I was young and pretty, just like Jason did. His was a trumpet military band one, right?
Yes.
Year's album. And I did one when I was 23 of some songs I'd written. And then I just didn't. Music kind of took a back seat for a very long time. And Jason has been gifting me all these amazing things and all this amazing technology. And we were driving home. We went on a drive and we were singing our heads off to something. And I was like, I forgot. I can sing. This is really fun.
It is fun.
And so that night, Jay was downstairs chatting with a friend, and I was messing around with the program we used to record this show. And I'm like, oh yeah, I used to do four track harmonies.
Yeah.
And I just, on the spur, off the cuff, wrote the Ghost Stories We Have Heard theme song.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is goofy. It is so goofy. But it was a lot of fun to write. It was a lot of fun to just to put together for you guys. Our patrons are going to be the ones who get it because they're amazing and they're supporting us. But I did want to make sure that you knew about the Ghost Stories We Have Heard and the theme song. And once I had finished it, we have a friend and supporter, Lou, down in Florida. And I had mentioned it to her and she goes, oh, you know, my husband and I have like a band and a recording studio, right?
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's so cool.
I'm like, what? So I sent it to her. She offered to put down a bass track. Her husband, Adam, produced and he reworked it. And he added the theremin, which frankly is a very unused instrument.
Yes.
And then their buddy Andy kicked in with his drummer talents. I do not envy them that job because I didn't use a metronome. I didn't use a time keep. It was pretty sloppy. So if you hear some mistakes in there, they are completely mine. And I probably should have gone back and recorded it, but I was just so excited. So this is basically my first publicly released song in 30 years.
Oh, wait.
Whoa.
That's a while.
That's a while. I'm so old. And what I thought I'd do is just share a little snippet with you.
Yeah, please enjoy.
And if you're one of our patrons, well, you get to hear the whole thing every other week when we drop our episodes of Ghost Stories We Have Heard on our Patreon page, which you can find at patreon.com Ghosts and Bears. And you can find a what do you call it? A tier that works for you.
Yeah.
And hhopefully support us, especially with Christmas coming closer.
You'll even get some merch.
What kind of merch, Jay?
All
You love
sorts
saying
of
that word.
merch.
You love saying that word. What are they going to get?
Oh, they can get mugs. They can get stickers. Plenty of merch.
T-shirt.
T-shirts, yes.
T-shirts, yeah.
Ball caps, etc., etc.
Plus, we also put out photographs at any level. You're going to get the photographs of whatever place we're talking about, unless it's like one like this, because obviously we're not going to take pictures inside of someone's house and put them on the internet. But usually there's pictures of the places we're talking about, all kinds of things like that. So we hope you join us over at Patreon and become part of the weird and wonderful community we are building over there. In the meantime, we want to give a shout out to Amos,
Maria,
Gina,
Elise,
Sharon,
Dawn,
Adam,
Bryce,
Sherry,
Brooks,
Marion,
Kathleen,
Alexa,
Debbie,
Ruth,
Mary Frances,
Gina and Victoria,
Sandy,
Christopher,
David,
Ashley,
Jeremiah,
Elizabeth,
BB Nix,
Melinda,
Jordan,
Tammy,
James,
Taya,
Evan,
Arwen,
Steve,
Kyle and Charlotte,
Catherine,
and Mari. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
You really do make a massive difference in our lives, and you make a massive difference in us being able to do this podcast, so we're grateful for that. So we're going to play the song a little bit, and then it will basically fade right into the end music, because honestly, I'm not going to have a lot to say after that.
It's that time.
I hope you enjoy it.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love to hear back from you. Let us know. Jason, any parting thoughts?
Well, we're the only podcast that gives you the actual history
With the actual ghost story.
from the actual place.
And hopefully one day soon that place.
We'll be with you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye.